Age of Alpine Ore, Book 1 by Mike Culligan, copyright 2014, read by Mike Culligan. Agnetha Welltime came into the world at 6 o'clock in the morning, 31st of January 1888. An icy cold day, strong winds and heavy snowfalls had swept the Silver Federation for weeks. Born at home, which was the family farmstead on Mount Rauber in the Alps, she was the third child of Bruno and Wilhelmina Hemi Welltime. Agnetha was a much welcome addition to their hard-working farming family. Weighing just over 3.2 kilos, she was a healthy baby, with big blue eyes, strongly kicking limbs, curly jet black locks and chubby cheeks. "What an absolute cutie!" roared the midwife as she cradled the newborn. She was yet to cut the umbilical cord, but welcoming the new addition of the family into the world was the right thing to do. Laying the baby carefully down on clean birthing sheets on the bed, she tied off the newborn's umbilical cord in 2 places, cutting it neatly between the ties. Newborn Agnetha kicked out, flailing her arms as she filled her lungs with the oxygen of life from the fire-warmed air in the birthing room. Already she was a willful and determined little soul. Outside, vicious winds battered the chalet. Shutters rattled dangerously, as if they might be torn off their brass hinges. Only those windows which were truly needed had been left, but protected by iron bars, outside in the sub-zero daytime temperatures. These very panes of glass were subjected to tremendous pressure changes as winds buffeted them one way and then another, slicing into them with blizzards of snow and hail at high velocity. So strong was the wind that it seemed as if it would join the family at any moment and sweep all away before it. Candles and oil lanterns flickered violently as gusts forced their way through the floorboards and ceilings of the heavily timbered building, which itself also groaned like a galleon under full sail under the strain of the forces generated by the winds. Bruno Welltime peered over the midwife's shoulders as she cuddled his new baby daughter. "Oh, I can see we've got a screamer. I've got to admit to you, Hemi, I did want a boy after the 2 girls. Now I can see that I'm going to be even more outnumbered by all the women around me. However, I will say this for her. She's got a decent pair of lungs, which is very useful in this family. I'm not sure if her eyes will turn brown like mine, but if they do, then she'll be more on my side than all of you lot with blue eyes and fair hair." Bruno had thick, wiry black hair. He was stout and bearded. He had calluses on his huge hands and nasty scars across one eyebrow and below his cheek from a lumber accident. He was not fond of decorum, preferring always to be ready for a physical challenge, day or night. The midwife waited patiently for the placenta to follow the baby out. Mother Wilhelmina was desperately exhausted but relieved. Her cheeks flushed red with the exertion of birth. This, her third baby, had been a more straightforward birth than the other 2, which had been longer in labour, with one baby being a breech and the other having the cord wrapped around her neck on delivery. Bruno continued talking in his excited babble. "We don't carry anyone here on this farm. No room for any runts of the litter up here, you know. You have to be up for the job here on these mountains. There's our stock of cattle and goats and pigs to tend. Plus, there's all the shouting we have to do in order to sell our goods at market. When they let us knock down prices at the end of the trading, I need a girl with a loud mouth and a good tuneful voice to yodel over the rabble of my competition, who grunt like angry bears to the confused customers. I'm glad we've not got a wallflower. She looks like a little fighter to me. She's not as pretty as her elder sister, mine, but she'll do. Wilhelmina, still exhausted from bringing her newborn into the world, agreed. "It's true. Our baby Agnetha might not win any beauty contests, but I do not care for looks much." Wilhelmina was a big lady. She had beautiful blonde hair and peachy cheeks. Her eyes were of piercing blue, and she had strong arms and legs. She was brought up in heavy manual labour and was very much at home, either taking pigs to slaughter or preparing game birds. She loved to create dishes in the huge oven range and stove on the farm. "You didn't marry me for my looks, Bruno. You were looking for a stocky farm girl with a kick like an angry ewe, and that is what you got." I'm still much better looking than you, so if our new little girl is a tiny bit ugly, then don't blame me. I'm just a tough farm girl who's got to get back to work pretty soon. Anyway, why am I wasting time talking to you? What are you still doing here staring at your wife having a baby, Bruno? Get your big ugly hulk to the market. You've got 3 daughters to feed. We've got a birth certificate to sign and the paperwork that comes with it. We need to pay the midwife here. We also need her signature. And you need to get this form to the local register of births and marriages, etc., with her upstanding citizen's signature to verify that our new baby's indeed a real Mount Rauber girl. I'm not going just yet. I haven't had a chance to get to know my new daughter yet. Sophia can come and clean up when I'm gone and help you to keep things ticking over, Bruno said. Sophia was the middle daughter who would be staying at home to look after her mum, while Monica, the eldest, would accompany her dad to work. Both Sophia and Monica took after their mother. They had blonde hair and the same piercing blue eyes. Monica was stouter than her younger sister, but this was purely down to her increased physical strength. Neither girl pandered to fashion when on the farm, but they both shared a great passion for design and creativity, with a flair for making commercial quality goods in textiles for their father's market stall. Bruno addressed his wife as she lay breathing more calmly now. I will send a worker to tell your mother that she's got another grandchild. The roads going across the mountains are full of snow, but he'll get through if he goes through our woods. Tulipa Stappenhof was the only surviving grandparent of the Weltheim children. Tulipa was Wilhelmina's mother. Sprite and mischievous, she was in her mid-70s. Tulipa lived in a small but very pretty village called Glockenspritter, some 10 kilometres from the rest of her family. Solid chalet farmstead homes like these were owned by the Weltheim family, and they were hundreds of years old. Political stability in the 16th century had allowed families to carve out farming domains in the mountainous territory. The Weltheim chalet was very basic and roomy. It had signs of skilled carpentry everywhere. Lots of intricate carvings and fancy ornate timber decorations were the skilled hallmarks of such carpenters, joiners and wood-turners with an eye for detail, plus an element of pride in their skills. Such chalets had long beams, weight-bearing timbers, a metal beam for a hoist and pulley system for heavy items, and even underground storage for supplies to cover the uncertainty of being cut off from the outside world for up to 3 months on occasion. The Silver Federation was once part of a great kingdom called Koblenza. The Obstein family still had positions in the Federation of States, but their role was largely ceremonial, due to their power having been usurped by a powerful cartel of barons who had opposed the sovereignty of the Obsteins for many centuries. The Obsteins had various decaying palaces dotted about their old kingdom, including hunting lodges in the Alps. They were now portrayed by the new industrialists as being obsolete and worse, obstructive to the sweeping modernisation gripping the nation. Power was in the hands of a council of barons, together with their financiers, who controlled the huge programmes of infrastructural change in what were once rural communities in a monarchical region of old states. The Silver Federation was basically the conglomeration of the old states. So far, a bloodless coup by baronial class agitators, financed by aggressive capitalists, had all but overthrown the Obstein family. Political and military decision-making wasn't really in the hands of the Obstein family anymore. The new leaders had coined the renaming of a large collection of the Koblenza territories as the Silver Federation. This literally applied to currency changes as well. The unit of currency here was the guilter. It held up well against other European foreign currencies. The Obstein heads were notably absent from any denomination of coins and notes in circulation issued since the bloodless coup of 10 years ago. The Federation was against any form of monarchy. Hearts and minds were more difficult to change, however. Older people still longed for the old ways, so the new gods of industry still had to play second fiddle in ceremonial and traditional ways, for the time being anyway, to the old leaders of Koblenza. The current head of the Obstein family was a widower, King Dominitz. He was 86, but his mental faculties were still razor sharp. A strikingly handsome man, he had played a wily game of diplomacy to outwit his enemies for most of his rule, but was overthrown in terms of power by opposing barons and industrialists. The family had no surviving children from the king's marriage. His son, Prince Basbao, had died at the age of only 22 in a rowing accident during a race, but had left behind 2 children. Prince Basbao's wife had died following the birth of her second child. King Dominitz's health was now waning, however. His grandson and granddaughter, Prince Albstar and Princess Leitz, respectively, had taken on many of his onerous duties, such as touring the kingdom and attending the huge number of festivals and ceremonial duties which occurred all year round in the kingdom. With both of their parents dead, and only the king to act as a guide, the odds against the prince and princess ever regaining any hold on their old kingdom were very slight indeed. The prince and princess were very persuasive and credible figures of state. Their attention to detail with ceremonial dress and impeccable manners, as well as their love of art, music and architecture from bygone days, struck a chord with many citizens of the new Silver Federation. What the young royals lacked in hard cash, they oozed in class and style. Although not accomplished musicians, both royals could hold a tune on a clarinet or flute, and the princess had a beautiful singing voice, which deserved accompaniment on piano. However, ever present in the wings were the new suited and booted rival barons from the thrusting Silver Federation. These new captains of industry were riding the crest of an industrial wave which threatened to completely sweep away the entire old order. The Silver Federation sounded just like some sort of public limited company which is just about to float on the stock exchange, rather than a beautiful Alpine region of collective states. Back in the Veltheim birthing room, which was in reality the marital bedroom shared by Wilhelmina and Bruno, Bruno was being sanguine about his new daughter's birth. That's it. I've cuddled my new daughter. Agnetha looks a real Veltheim. I can't say she'll be a prize winner as a May Queen, but beauty doesn't pay the bills up here. I think she looks so tough that we could roll her down the Alps like a circle of cheese. I'll bring all the paperwork with me to get her birth registered, Hemi. I may have to stay for a few nights in town if the snow gets worse, but I have no choice. We have to sell our goods to get food on our table, and I'll bring a lot of salted goat's meat and cheese with me to sell with some of our handcrafted items. I'm taking Monica with me, so you can have Sophia to help you if anything needs doing. I'll see if we can get a visit into the musical instruments repair shop. My accordion is now out of tune on a few notes, so I'll need a couple of reeds replacing or retuning. The bellows are so badly holed, plus I think the bass buttons are not returning to their home positions correctly anymore. Don't call out the doctor unless you're desperate. He costs so much, and we can't afford him anymore. Any problems, Hemi? Just get Sophia to fetch the midwife again from the next village of Abergraft. She can give medicines. Bye-bye, my brown trout. Love you, and my new little fish fry. Oh, he always wants something when he compliments me, weary Wilhelmina said to the midwife. Rest now, my dear. I'm not sure that calling a lady a brown trout would pass for a compliment around here, the midwife replied. You've lost some blood during this delivery. You need to regain your strength. A quick birth, Wilhelmina, but in this blizzard you mustn't come down with anything. I will make you some soup, and you can have some hot coffee and bread. We'll see if you can breastfeed Agnetha later on. Father and eldest daughter Monica ran to the stables to harness up 2 of their stoutest ponies. They brought extra feed for the horses on the sled, plus shovels and spades for digging themselves out of trouble in the snow, or to create a snow shelter if they were trapped on the main route. The trip to market normally took a whole day, but in this season it was wise to stop overnight. With that, Bruno and Monica were gone into the blizzard with their sled laden up with goods. Alfstepf, a collie cross, always joined the Veltheims on their market trips. He had fierce loyalty, keen senses, an even temperament, and sufficient curiosity to warn of danger or the presence of a stranger. He would quickly sense the proximity of wolves or bears to the sled. He might also bark if a red squirrel was in a nearby tree.